Welcome to AgriVista, where we explore topics in agriculture. I'm Joshua Tigas. To continue a special Albert City Threshermen series, we'll dive into another featured aspect of the show. A special Corliss Steam Engine is not only on display, but in operation. This stationary engine with a superior boiler attracts many eyes. Let's take a look at what we'll cover with this unique engine.
Chalmers was the largest manufacturer of stationary steam engines in the United States.
We have to mouse-proof it to keep the little roaming livestock out. Do you know that flywheel weighs as much as 2, almost 3 of your parents' car? He gave me that look.
You just got to come out here to see it.
All of this and more coming up on AgriVista.
Requiring its own building, the Corliss Steam Engine featured at the Albert City Threshermen show causes many to make a pit stop. From watching each part of the engine twist and turn to asking questions, the education-focused nature of the show leads volunteers to interact with anyone curious about how the engine runs. While steam tractors drive around the grounds with a mobile engine, the stationary nature of the Corliss engine raises many questions from spectators. So, what purpose does this engine serve? Let's take a look.
When compared to the steam engine tractors at the Albert City Threshermen show, the stationary Corliss engine appears limited. Yet this very aspect draws attention throughout the show, from generating electricity to being a valuable asset for blacksmiths. This engine served its purpose back in the day and has been a one-of-a-kind find for the show.
The old one had served out its life. We had to get something different. Through various circumstances, we got a lead on this superior boiler that had been in downtown Sioux City. Ed and Agnes Sunholm were also very generous people. Ed found this Corliss engine in South Dakota, and he found the original boiler that operated it and donated both of those.
With the Chalmers being the featured tractor for the upcoming year, it's almost fitting this engine gets its spotlight.
Chalmers made this, and most people in this part of the country think of Chalmers with their orange tractors. But Chalmers was the largest manufacturer of stationary steam engines in the United States.
While almost certainly coming across a variation of this engine on steam tractors at this show or similar shows around the nation, many still find it hard to grasp the basic principle of using steam to draw power. Yet the education-focused nature of the Albert City Threshermen has volunteers eager to elaborate.
It's a superior boiler. The particular model is a Scotch Marine dryback. That refers to how the flues are arranged within the boiler. They're a good example of basic physics. Steam takes 1,700 times as much area as the water that makes it.
Taking this steam into consideration, a basic understanding of it proves crucial to maintaining an optimal pressure level.
What people don't always know about steam, if they're not familiar with it, is steam runs under pressure both ways, and then it exhausts both ways.
Once it leaves the boiler, it continues to expand, and that's why everything that runs on steam out here works, is that continual expansion until it is used up and exhausted out.
The preservation of history motivates volunteers to donate their time and engage with those curious about their passion.
One thing that we're very happy that we can provide out here is our examples of steam power.
Although stationary, the soothing sound of the Corliss engine accompanies swift silk motions that captivate showgoers. Yet again, the Corliss engine emerges as one of many unique stamp marks of the Albert City Threshermen show.
I'm now privileged to be joined by Terry Applegate, a volunteer at the Albert City Threshermen who spends a majority of his time with the Corliss engine. Now, Terry, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. So, first off, let's start with your role with the Threshermen here. So, what do you do with the Corliss engine?
Well, I am one of a small team of 3 or 4 that get it ready to go each year for showtime, and then display it, show it, run it during the weekend, and then put it away and get it ready for storage again for another year until we use it again.
Yeah, so this engine's kind of unique to the show, and it kind of draws a lot of attention there with all the interactions and stuff people get with it. So why do you think that kind of is?
I think the biggest thing that catches people's attention with that engine is, A, it runs super quiet. because it's steam, so there's no, no pop and coast, as it were, like a tractor, like a gas engine would be. And then just the sheer size of things on it, like the 10-foot, 10,000-pound flywheel spinning around gets a lot of attention and a lot of questions, especially from younger kids that are just amazed at how big that is.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one thing I was kind of wondering, and a lot of people might be wondering too, at the show, obviously you see a lot of steam engine tractors moving around. They've got that mobile engine on it. What's the benefits of having a stationary engine?
The stationary engine would have been primarily used in a factory type situation, whether that was to generate electricity at a factory or on a line shaft, just for stationary power in a, like say, in a factory situation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, now let's talk about that boiler a little bit. You were talking about all those different kind of big pieces with this engine here. The boiler has to be one of those. It's kind of that big green thing that you see out there, right?
Right, correct, yep. And that boiler is not new by any means, but it's new to us by about 4 years we've had it now. And yes, it's what we call a modern boiler on an old engine because it's a fuel oil fired burner, and but it gets the job done for what we need. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and now talking about what you need out there and stuff, what's the process like of getting this engine ready for the show?
Well, as it's sitting there right now between show seasons, the boiler sits completely wide open so that the condensation will not collect in it and rust the important pieces in there. And then of course we have to mouse proof it to keep the little roaming livestock out. And the engine is kind of the same thing. It sits we park it in basically a neutral position on the cylinder so that it won't pit in the cylinder wall if there's moisture in it, and it's left open to let all the moisture and things out, and also protected from livestock.
Yeah.
So keep it covered, even though it's under a roof. There's a tarp over it to help keep some of the dirt and the grime off of it, and that's how she sits for almost a whole year at a time.
Yeah. Yep. Now, kind of walk me through the process of how this engine works, because I know a lot of people kind of struggle to kind of comprehend how steam turns into power.
Right. So, of course, steam is pressure, and I guess the basic answer there is that pressure then translates to the power of that engine. So, steam engines, whether it's the ones moving around or our stationary one, unlike even like our modern cars that fire and then kind of a coast, steam is under power both directions of the cylinder. So you take on an intake shot of steam and it pushes that cylinder in one direction, and then it opens up another valve and pushes that cylinder back. So steam was popular, whether it was the traction engines or the stationary engines, because it was a steady power. If you watch it, for instance, like when they're using the sawmill out to the show, and that tractor or that traction engine is, it can run steady. You don't get that like you would if it was a gas tractor. Mm-hmm. So, and it's pure power. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the power of the pressure of steam.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
now working with this Corliss engine a lot, being involved in the show out there, what's the most rewarding aspect to you?
For me, it's all the questions especially the curious kids. I had one young man out there one summer that I'm sitting and watching him talk about the steam engine to his parents, and the young man, who I'm guessing was 7 or 8, really acted like and sounded like he had an understanding of old iron like that and steam. So I walked over there and I visited with him a little bit, but then I said to him, do you know what kind of car your mom and dad drive? And he goes, no, and he kind of looked at mom and dad, and they helped him answer my question. And so I pointed then at that big flywheel, and I said, do you know that flywheel weighs as much as 2, almost 3 of your parents' car? He gave me that look like, oh my goodness, So yeah, that for me, that's the fun part, is just visiting and explaining it to people, and And, you know, I like to visit with people anyway, so that's my thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Before you go, though, we do have a viewer question that was sent in.
Oh.
So the viewer is wondering how many of these engines are still in use today?
Probably not very many. I know that, I mean, we have one, and I hear people come through and say that there are shows like Mount Pleasant that has steam engines like that. Primarily just the shows that, you know, want to take on the I don't want to say headache, but the expense and of keeping a steam engine going, because, you know, you have to have them inspected and you have to keep that boiler up to snuff, and there's a lot of ongoing things to just be able to show it for 3-4 days a year that a lot of people don't realize. In fact, you know, like I say, our boiler is 4 years old or whatever it is, and you know, there was some discussion about, do we really want to keep spending money on it? But it's like, you have to, you know, you have to keep that going and let the modern people, modern generation folks, and see how things were done in the past.
Well, Terry, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today.
My pleasure.
Make sure to make your way to the Albert City Threshermen's and Collector Show, August 11th through the 13th, to see the Corliss engine and a variety of other antiques on display. Tune in next time when we wrap up our deep dive with where we started. I'm Joshua Tigas, and you've been watching the special Albert City Threshermen series on AgriVista, where we explore the past to understand the present and excel into the future.